Disrespected as just a waitress, she revealed hidden power and exposed a $500 million deal. Jenny stood behind the counter of the diner, her hands worn but steady, pouring coffee into oversized mugs with a practiced ease. The hustle and bustle around her clinking silverware, laughter, and the sizzling of bacon on the grill could drown out a heart full of worry. But she hid it well beneath her radiant smile. To the untrained eye, she was just another waitress in a small Midwestern town, struggling to make ends meet for herself and her spirited 8-year-old son. Max. Little did they know, this single mother had a fire inside her. As she wiped down a neon green table, the door swung open, letting in a gust of autumn air and a group of suit-clad corporate investors. They strutted in like they owned the place, casting sidelong glances at the worn chairs and old-fashioned decor. Jenny felt a pit in her stomach. She had seen their kind before, more interested in their own privileges than the life stories etched in the walls of this diner. They would soon learn that this was her territory. "Hey, Jenny." Bob, a kind-hearted Army veteran, waved from a corner booth, his smile as warm as the freshly baked pies the diner was known for. Her heart tightened, grateful for the loyal customers who saw her dreamy flair beyond coffee and burgers. Meanwhile, the investors settled at the counter, discussing plans that echoed with greed and room for unwelcome change. Jenny served their meals but listened closely to their conversation. They spoke of transforming the diner into a fast food chain, a faceless mistake in the heart of a community that lived and breathed home-cooked goodness. Rage bubbled up within her, fueled by the thought of losing the only place that felt like home, both for her and her son. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the discussions escalated, Jenny's resolve solidified. She began to piece together the underhanded dealings, an alarming $500 million proposal that threatened to wipe out small businesses like theirs. The air thickened with injustice, and the diner's familiar buzz turned into a collective whisper of concern among the regulars. With every cup of coffee, she shared her findings with anyone willing to listen, urging them to stand together against the impending invasion that sought to erase their identities. But just as hope ignited within her, a sinister betrayal emerged. A trusted co-worker turned informant, feeding the investors her secrets. Heartbroken, Jenny felt the floor beneath her tremble. Could she truly fight for her community when those closest to her turned away? The uncertainty loomed heavy, the fate of their beloved diner hanging by a fragile thread. Would she muster the courage to rally the town behind her? Would the spark of potential within her burn bright enough to outshine the shadows of doubt? In that moment, while facing fear and betrayal, she knew the stakes had never been higher. And in the lingering silence that filled the diner, a determined voice whispered back she wouldn't let them take everything away. The following morning, Jenny woke before the sun rose, sheets tangled around her legs. She tiptoed past Max's room, careful not to disturb his dreams. The world outside was still cloaked in darkness, but inside her, a fire flickered brightly. Her heart raced with a mix of hope and apprehension. The betrayal weighed heavily on her, but she couldn't dwell on it now. There was too much at stake. As Jenny prepped the diner for the day, the smell of fresh coffee mingled with the crisp autumn air. She poured her first pot with a sense of urgency. Each pour was a declaration: she wouldn't be defeated. Surrounded by the glow of the diner's neon lights, she began to map out her plan. The thought of the corporate takeover consumed her mind, and she needed every ounce of clarity. Regular customers started trickling in, their familiar faces providing comfort. Bob was the first to arrive, sliding onto his usual stool. "Hey, Jenny. You look like someone's poked a hornet's nest." His eyes sparkled with genuine concern. Jenny forced a smile, leaning into the counter. "You have no idea. It's going to be a rough day." She took a deep breath and adjusted her apron. "Bob, I need your help. We have to rally the community." The investors want to tear this place down. He frowned, a deep furrow forming on his brow. We can't let that happen. We'll fight for it, then. Just tell me what you need. She laid out her ideas, her heart pounding with passion. Each word was fueled by a fierce desire to protect her home and her son's future. Bob listened intently, nodding as she spoke. The more she shared, the more she felt the weight lifting. By the time the diner was filled with patrons, she had a plan in motion. Over the next few hours, Jenny spoke to everyone who walked through the door. She shared the alarming news, urging them to come together for a meeting that evening. We can't let our diner become just another fast food franchise, she exclaimed, her voice rising above the clinking of silverware. This place offers us a sense of home. Word began to spread, and faces showed up that evening, each more determined than the last. Under the fluorescent lights, Jenny's heart soared as community members sat shoulder to shoulder, their expressions resolute. She could feel the strength of the people around her, pushing away the fear. They were ready to fight back. Suddenly, the door swung open, and the air fell quiet. In walked Vanessa, the co-worker who had betrayed her, eyeing the crowd like a hawk searching for its prey. A shiver ran down Jenny's spine. Vanessa had always been charming, able to win trust and admiration easily. Things look lively in here, she called out, her voice dripping with a sweet sarcasm. What's the topic? How to go bankrupt fighting a battle you can't win. Jenny's heart raced. She met Vanessa's gaze, piercing and cold. We're fighting for our diner, Vanessa. For our community. Can you say the same? The patrons murmured among themselves, sensing the tension rising. It was then that Jenny realized, this wasn't just about her diner anymore. It was a fight for their shared beliefs, their families, the very foundation of who they were. Let us show her what we can do. Bob shouted, raising his coffee mug, and others followed suit, echoing his cheers, and in that moment, Jenny felt a surge of power, a spirit igniting among the crowd. They wouldn't back down, not now, not ever. With unity on their side, they could face the looming threat, but as the cheers erupted around her, Jenny couldn't shake the sense of danger lurking in the background. What were the investors planning next? The clock was ticking, and she knew the battle was far from over. Each moment brought new challenges, but she was ready to face them. Little did Jenny know, the toughest chapters of her journey were yet to come. Would she have enough strength to hold her ground? As the meeting continued, tension lingered in the air. Jenny's determination filled the diner, mixing with the bittersweet aroma of coffee and grilled toast. She locked eyes with Bob, whose encouragement had become her lifeline. His steady presence reminded her of the resilience they all shared. Okay, everyone. Jenny raised her voice, trying to galvanize the crowd. We can't just sit here. We need a plan. She felt their eyes on her, trusting and anxious, anticipating her next move. Vanessa leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk on her lips. Jenny swallowed hard and pushed aside her fears. We need signatures for a petition. Something that shows the investors were serious about keeping this diner. How many do you think we need? Someone shouted from the back, jumping in with energy, and it sparked an electric reaction. 100. No, 200. Jenny replied, her voice now brimming with enthusiasm. The more, the better. We'll gather them all over the next few days. Hands shot up as people volunteered. Someone proposed handing out flyers, while another suggested gathering stories from customers about what the diner meant to them. Jenny felt a swell of hope. It was more than she ever expected. As plans took shape, she cast a glance at Vanessa, who was now frowning. Jenny's heart raced, she relished the moment. Vanessa had thought she could crush their spirit, but here they were, rising stronger than ever. The meeting wrapped up with cheers, and Jenny felt that familiar warmth settling into her bones, ready to take on the fight. However, as patrons left, a voice called out from the back. It was Max, standing hesitantly, eyes wide with uncertainty. Mom, he said softly, his small frame barely visible amid the towering adults. Jenny rushed toward him, kneeling down to meet his gaze. "Hey buddy, I'm fighting for our diner, for us. You're okay?" "I heard everything," he said, biting his lip. "Are they really gonna take it away?" A lump formed in Jenny's throat. She wanted to shield him from the harshness of the world but knew that honesty was their bond. "We're going to fight, Max. We have so many good people on our side." He nodded slowly, a mixture of concern and admiration in his eyes. "I want to help too. Can I?" Her heart swelled with pride. "Absolutely. You can help me with the flyers. You've got a good way with words, just like your mom." As they began to leave the diner, Jenny caught Vanessa watching them. But this time, she didn't look as powerful. The doubt built a wall around her confidence, and for the first time, Jenny felt she had the upper hand. That night, she lay awake, thoughts racing as the stars twinkled through her window. The diner was more than just a business, it was threads binding a community together. Yet, in the silence, an unsettling feeling bubbled beneath the surface. What if the investors were planning something more sinister than they imagined? Morning came too soon, and as Jenny drove Max to school, she noticed a black SUV lingering near the diner. Her stomach knotted with unease. Was someone watching? Maybe the investors were already trying to intimidate them. "Hey, are you okay?" Max asked, noticing the change in her demeanor. "Yeah, I'm okay," she replied, but the truth hung heavy in the air. They arrived at the school, and Jenny hugged Max tightly. "You've got this, sweetheart. Just remember, we're in this together." With a brave face, she watched him walk through the school doors, while her mind raced back to the SUV. Tomorrow, she'd need to get answers. She had a feeling the fight would escalate, and she was ready to dig deeper. Just as she turned to leave, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Bob. "Got some intel on the investors. Meet me tonight." Her heart pounded. What had he discovered? As tension thickened, Jenny knew they were about to uncover something that could change everything. What was lurking in the shadows waiting to pounce? Jenny paced in her small kitchen, the aroma of leftover coffee still clinging to the air. The message from Bob replayed in her mind. She needed to be strong, energetic. Max's small worried face flashed before her eyes. She wouldn't let fear take hold. Tonight was going to be crucial. The clock ticked louder as the hour approached. She brushed her hair back and glanced at herself in the mirror. The shadows under her eyes told a story of sleepless nights, but the fire in her heart ignited her spirit. Time to dig deep. Arriving at the diner, an anxious energy tingled in her fingertips. Bob was sitting at their usual booth, his hands nervously cradling a steaming cup. As soon as she walked over, he looked up, his expression serious but filled with resolve. "Jenny," he said, his voice steady. "I spoke to someone who knows about the investors' plans." He leaned closer, the urgency in his voice matching the pounding in her chest. "They're not just after the diner. They want to destroy this whole block. They want to build some fancy mall." "Seriously?" She gasped, the weight of his words sinking into her. It felt like a punch to the gut. "They think we don't matter, that we're just a memory. But if they take the diner, they destroy more than a business, they erase our history, our connections." Jenny clenched her fists. How could they dismiss the value of a place that meant so much to so many? "What can we do?" Bob's eyes sparkled with determination. "We need proof. I have a contact who can help us dig into their financial dealings. He'll get us the evidence we need. But it's going to be risky." "What kind of risk?" Jenny asked, bracing herself. "He's not exactly operating in the light of day. If things go south, we could end up in some serious trouble." She knew this was a big gamble. But then again, what choice did they have? Letting the diner vanish without a fight wasn't an option. "I'm in," she declared, her voice steady. After exchanging a few more details, they made a plan. They would meet Bob's contact later that week, under the cover of night, in a secluded part of town. While it felt intimidating, the danger also fueled Jenny's fire. This was for Max, for the patrons, for the heart of their community. As the night wore on, the diner's fluorescent lights hummed softly, casting warm shadows around them. A group of regulars trickled in, laughing and chatting. Their familiar faces inspired her. Could they rally enough support if she shared the truth? She stepped outside for a moment, the cool air crisp against her skin. Her mind raced with possibilities. What if they could show the investors that people cared about this place? But time was of the essence, the clock was ticking, and she could already feel the pressure accumulating. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the shadow of the diner. It was Vanessa. Her expression was unreadable, but the tension between them felt palpable. "What are you doing, Jenny?" she asked, voice laced with reproach. "This is a losing battle." Jenny squared her shoulders. "No, Vanessa. This is our battle. We're not backing down." Vanessa stepped closer, her voice dropping. "You'll regret this. You have no idea what they're capable of." "Neither do you," Jenny shot back, standing firm. "But I won't let fear dictate my life. Not anymore." With that, Jenny turned back towards the diner, refusing to give in to her doubts. But as she entered, the knot in her stomach tensed once more. She knew an uncomfortable confrontation was coming. Tomorrow promised to be a crucial turning point. Would they succeed in rallying the community? Or was she stepping into something far darker than she anticipated? The weight of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, bathing the kitchen in a golden light. Jenny rubbed her eyes, wishing for a few more minutes of sleep. But the reality of the day ahead pushed her out of bed. She needed to be sharp, focused, ready to lead the charge. With a quick breakfast and a kiss for Max, she stepped outside. The familiar streets of their neighborhood felt heavy with expectation. Would people join her? Would they understand the stakes? As she walked toward the diner, her heart raced. The idea that the place she'd worked in since she was 16 could disappear was unthinkable. Each step reminded her of the faces of regulars, the laughter shared over cups of coffee. When she entered, the diner was bustling. The sound of clattering dishes and murmurs of conversation welcomed her like an old friend. She shared smiles with a few customers, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Bob was already there, pacing near the entrance. The moment he spotted her, he pulled her aside, urgency in his voice. "Have you thought about the meeting tonight? We need to be prepared." "Yeah," Jenny replied, trying to mask the knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. I'm worried. What if we can't convince anyone?" Bob's face softened. "You have to believe in them, Jenny. They care about the diner. They care about you." "Okay, you're right," she said, swallowing her fears. "But if we're going to make this work, we need a plan to get everyone involved. We have to show them this is more than just a diner. It's home for a lot of people." Jenny started serving breakfast, her mind racing with ideas. As she poured coffee, she caught snippets of conversations. A couple was discussing the upcoming mall, their apprehension evident. "Can you believe it? They want to tear down our diner for a stupid shopping center." It struck her then. This was what she needed to leverage. She decided to share the truth as boldly as she could. "Hey everyone!" she called out, her voice echoing across the diner. "I need your attention." The chatter slowly faded, but she felt the weight of their gazes pressing against her. "This isn't just about saving a diner, it's about saving our community. They want to build a mall that'll ruin everything we cherish. We can't let that happen." A murmur spread throughout the room. Faces turned thoughtful, concern etching their features. Encouraged, Jenny pressed on. "Tonight, Bob and I are meeting someone who has information on this. Join us. We need you in this fight. It's more than just me, it's all of us together." An elderly man raised his hand, voice shaking. "I've been coming here since I was a kid. This diner is my family. I'll be there." "You're not alone," shouted another regular, and soon others chimed in with their stories. Memories began to weave the fabric of shared history around them, bonding the patrons closer. As the crowd's voices grew louder, an unexpected warmth surged through Jenny. Her heart raced in excitement. This wasn't just a battle for the diner, it was a rallying cry for the neighborhood. But just as she felt the momentum shift, the diner door swung open. Vanessa stepped inside, her expression taut, glancing around at the gathering crowd. "You really think this is going to work?" she scoffed. Jenny's stomach churned. "We can't lose hope," she replied, drawing on the strength of the support around her. Vanessa crossed her arms, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "Be careful. You're stepping into something bigger than you realize." "Maybe," Jenny shot back, emboldened. "But I refuse to stand by while they take everything from us." As the diner's energy built around her, a surge of hope wove through Jenny, though uncertainty still lurked at the edges. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. What other secrets would they uncover as they delved deeper into the investors' plans? Would she find more allies willing to stand with her? The atmosphere in the diner buzzed with energy as Jenny sensed a shift in the air. It felt as if the very walls around her held whispers of resilience and determination. It was a feeling she had longed for. But just as she looked into the faces filled with hope, a flicker of doubt flashed in the back of her mind. Could this really change anything? "All right, everybody." She steadied her voice as calls and shared memories simmered around her. "Let us regroup and brainstorm on how we can spread the word about tonight's meeting. The more voices we can rally, the stronger we'll be." Bob nodded, moving to a corner of the diner, pulling out paper and a pen. A few customers joined him, eager to pitch in. Jenny's heart swelled, witnessing how the diner was truly a community and not just a place to grab coffee and pie. As she continued serving tables, she overheard snippets of conversations filled with resolve. Couples made plans to bring their friends. A group of teenagers, their faces hopeful, discussed using social media to spread the message. Jenny soaked it all in, each word an additional spark firing up her spirits. Then, just as momentum seemed to swell, Vanessa made her way over with a tight expression. The microwave hummed in the background, and the smell of pancakes filled the air, but the looming tension thickened the atmosphere between them. "I'm not sure this is going to work, Jenny," Vanessa said quietly, her voice barely a whisper against the clatter of plates. "You're putting everyone's hopes on a gamble. This project is already backed by big money." Jenny squared her shoulders, determined to defend not just her cause, but her community's spirit. "If we don't try, we're already losing. It's more than a gamble, it's a fight for something that matters. We can't just sit back and let them decide what's best for us." Vanessa hesitated, her eyes flickering with concern. "What if they send threats? This is bigger than you think." Jenny felt the weight of Vanessa's words pressing down on her, but she couldn't let doubt take root. "I believe in us. If we stand together, they won't just see a diner, they'll see our families, our memories, our lives." Vanessa shifted, uncertainty darkening her features just for a second before she sighed. "I just don't want to see you hurt. You mean a lot to this place, you know." "Then you should fight beside me," Jenny urged. She placed a hand on Vanessa's arm, her touch steady. "Let us show them what we can do." After a moment, Vanessa finally nodded, just a small movement, but it felt monumental. Perhaps what Jenny said had begun to sink in. The diner's door opened yet again, this time revealing a figure Jenny hadn't expected, Martin, a somewhat reclusive businessman who frequented the diner but never engaged in town affairs. His arrival sent a ripple of surprise and curiosity through the room. "Is this a bad time?" Martin asked, glancing around at the assembled crowd. "I overheard something about a meeting tonight. I'd like to help." Jenny's heart raced. What had he overheard? Was this an opportunity? Absolutely. We can use all the help we can get, she responded, hope threading through her voice. As the diner's energy shifted, Jenny sensed the tide turning. This was starting to feel like more than a chance to save a diner, it was a pushback against complacency. But as she welcomed Martin to the table, a gnawing fear whispered in her mind. What exactly did he know? And was he truly, genuinely on their side? The stakes were rising, but so was the resolve. She knew tonight held the power to reshape everything, but would the community be ready for the truths that lay hidden? As she thought about the potential revelations ahead, her heart raced with excitement and dread. What might emerge from the shadows, and who would they have to confront in their fight for hope? The warm aroma of coffee and freshly cooked pancakes filled the diner as Jenny turned to the gathering crowd. Words hung in the air, potent and electric. Martin settled into a chair, his presence both reassuring and unsettling. She had seen him here countless times, unnoticed and silent. Now, he seemed ready to step into the light, but the doubts wrapped around her like tendrils of fog. Martin, why do you want to help? Jenny finally asked, her tone layered with guarded curiosity. He cleared his throat and ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit she had noticed before. I've watched this town change, and not in a good way. I have a stake in it. This diner is part of my life, part of everyone else's lives. If you all think this is worth fighting for, then I want in. Jenny felt a flicker of hope, but the unease remained. Could she trust him? The thrum of whispered conversations encircled her like an invisible cloak. She looked to Bob, who sat close by and nodded encouragingly. Let us get some ideas on the table, she said, eager to push past her doubts. The diner's spirit felt unbreakable as ideas poured forth. A rally outside the diner, flyers distributed throughout the town, a petition each voice added to the chorus of hope and ambition. Laughter mixed with determination, shaking loose the weights of uncertainty. Vanessa stood beside her, clipboard in hand, grinning widely as she wrote down every proposal. Look at us, she said, her eyes sparkling. It's like we're starting an uprising. Just then, a delivery truck pulled up outside, its engine rumbling loudly. The chatter quieted, and all heads turned toward the glass door. A figure stepped out, clipboard in hand. It was Jerry, the town council member who had always seemed more interested in favoring development companies than caring for the community. Nice to see you all so energized, he said, the sarcasm dripping from his tone like honey. What's this? A petition to keep the diner alive? You really think you can stop progress? Jenny's heart raced, adrenaline pumping through her veins. This was an attack the kind she had dreaded. She fought the urge to shrink back. Actually, yes. We believe we can fight for our diner. We can rally our community. Jerry smirked, crossing his arms, and eyed the crowd gathered. That's cute, Jenny. But the truth is, there are bigger fish to fry. These changes are already set in motion. You're wasting your time. A murmur rippled through the diner, the initial spark of hope flickering under the weight of his disdain. But Jenny wasn't ready to back down. The energy in the room shifted, anger rising to meet his contempt. Maybe we are small, Jerry, she shot back, feeling each heartbeat thumping louder. But we're not powerless. If you think we'll sit back and let you bulldoze our home for a fat paycheck, you're dead wrong. People began to rise, fists clenched, emboldened. She could see the fire lighting in their eyes, the resilience rising like a tide. Martin leaned closer. I can help. I've got contacts, resources. If we gather the right information. Vanessa echoed, her brow knitted in thought. What kind of information? Martin hesitated for just a second, the air around them growing charged with possibilities. What most don't know is the deal is worth millions. I have documentation, proposals, figures. I was approached just last week to stay silent. But maybe it's time to reveal everything. As Martin spoke, a tremor of excitement surged through Jenny. What if they could turn the tide? But just as she was about to respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket, drawing her attention. It was a message from an unknown number. Her pulse quickened as she read it. "You're better off walking away." Fear slithered through her, seeping into her resolve. Who was threatening her now, and what did they know? The walls of the diner felt closer, hearts pounding in the face of this new danger. A reminder that they were challenging forces greater than themselves. As the night wore on and the energy ricocheted around the room, Jenny felt the mixture of excitement and dread. Was this really the beginning of a movement, or the start of something darker? With knowledge and threats crashing headlong, the battle lines were drawn. Tonight's confrontation was shaping to be more critical than anyone dared to imagine. And in the back of her mind, beneath the quiet courage building, a singular question loomed: could they truly stand against what was coming? The tension in the diner hung thick as everyone exchanged nervous glances. Jenny stood, her heart racing with a mix of determination and fear. A threatening message from an unknown sender loomed in her thoughts, overshadowing the hopeful ideas that had been swirling moments before. She could feel her breath quicken, the weight of the situation crashing down around her. "Okay, everyone, let us focus," Jenny said, trying to project confidence. She clasped her hands tightly in front of her, willing herself to shake off the anxiety. "Martin, you mentioned having some documents." Martin nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the growing resolve in the room. "Yes. If what I have can expose the truth behind their plans, we may have a fighting chance. But it means taking risks." "Risk is part of the fight," Vanessa chimed in, flipping through her clipboard. "We can't back down now. Not after coming this far." The crowd murmured agreement. It felt electric, a surge of energy pulsing through each person present. Yet Jenny couldn't shake the dread building within her. "Let's start by planning a community meeting," Bob suggested, raising his hand to silence the chatter. "We can inform more people and gather signatures for the petition. This could be the first step in rallying enough support to challenge whatever they throw at us." Before Jenny could respond, the sound of a chair scraping back made her turn. Jerry was still there, lingering, leaning casually against the wall with a bemused smile. "You really think a petition will make a difference? People already want the development. They see it as progress." "Progress for who, Jerry?" she challenged, anger coiling tightly in her stomach. "For you and your corporate buddies? Or for the families who've lived here for generations? All I'm saying is, don't waste your breath." He shrugged, his voice barely a whisper. "But suit yourselves. This will be over before you know it." As he turned to leave, Jenny's grip on the table tightened. "We'll see about that." Her voice rang out, strong and clear now. Vanessa elbowed her gently. "Way to go, Jenny. You held your own." But even as the encouragement washed over her, uncertainty lingered. She stole another glance at her phone, the ominous message still flashing on the screen. How high were the stakes? What could happen if this battle went south? "Let's split up tasks," Jenny said, shaking off her doubts. "Martin, can you pull together the documents you mentioned? Vanessa, will you help organize the community meeting? Bob, can you start getting the word out to everyone?" "Absolutely," Bob replied, a fire lighting in his eyes. The diner seemed to breathe with newfound energy. Laughter mingled with serious discussions about strategies as they broke into groups, each person focused on the task ahead. As they moved, Jenny felt a flicker of hope reignite. Maybe they could make a difference, but just as laughter bubbled up, Jenny's phone buzzed again, sending an icy chill down her spine. Another message, reading, "You're walking into a trap. Don't say you weren't warned." The color drained from her face. Where was this coming from? Was someone watching her? Martin caught her expression. "You okay?" he asked softly, concern washing over his features. "Just weird messages," she confessed, shaking her head. His brow furrowed. "We can't let fear win, Jenny. This diner is too important. If they think we'll back down because of a few threats, they're mistaken. She searched his eyes and saw steadfastness there, a shared understanding. You're right. No more hesitation. As night descended, the diner was a battleground of ideas and fervor, but now shadows seemed to loom in every corner. Each step forward felt heavier under the weight of those ominous warnings. And with every tick of the clock, Jenny realized their fight was bigger than just saving this diner, it was about standing against the tide of fear and secrecy. When morning broke, Jenny would face the challenge ahead, but for now, trapped in that mixture of determination and dread, she wondered, what would it take to truly uncover the truth, and who would be willing to stand with her if the consequences escalated? The following morning brought an eerie stillness to the diner. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the space that had buzzed with determination just hours before. But today, the vibrant energy felt dulled, as if the bright rays couldn't penetrate the heaviness in the air. Jenny gulped down the coffee, the hot liquid reflecting her jittery nerves. She glanced around, spotting Martin and Vanessa in a quiet corner, their heads huddled together over stacks of papers. Bob stood by the entrance, practicing his speech for the community meeting that would take place later that evening. They worked late into the night, driven by the urgency of their mission. Jenny's phone buzzed again. Flipping it over, she steeled herself against the dread tightening in her stomach. "You're on borrowed time," the message read, the silent threat wrapping around her like a noose. She inhaled deeply, gritting her teeth, reminding herself that fear couldn't dictate her actions today. "All right, everyone," she finally called out, breaking the quiet. "Let us huddle up." The group converged, eyes steadying on her as they sensed the shift. Martin cleared his throat, sliding the first document toward her. "I found records showing their initial proposals. There's no way it'll benefit the community, just a facade. We've got to show them the real cost," he said, his voice a low rumble amongst the gathering crowd. Vanessa chimed in, her brow furrowed with determination. "We need to highlight that this development comes at the expense of local businesses. It's almost predatory what they're trying to pull." Nodding along, Jenny felt warmth building within her. She could do this. "What if we created a simple infographic?" she suggested passionately. "Visuals are compelling. If we can display those facts in an engaging way, people will see the truth behind the pretty pictures they've been sold." "Great idea!" Bob exclaimed, already jotting down ideas. "We need something that can go viral, something that people can't ignore." And just like that, the mood shifted. Creativity sparked as the group bounced ideas off each other. They discussed potential slogans, the key points to touch on, and how to frame their narrative. Laughter returned, and hope began to blossom in the corners of the room, but with enthusiasm came the threat lying just off the edges of their thoughts. The whispers, the threats, loomed as heavy as the late-night shadows. As they worked, Jenny could hardly ignore the quiet pulse of apprehension in her chest. Who had sent those messages? What lengths would they go to in order to silence them? Her hand brushed across one of the documents, and she stopped cold. A name jumped out, Westbridge Development. A chill ran down her spine. Her entire life, she had heard whispers of secret dealings surrounding their projects. "These guys aren't just looking for profit, they're after power," she murmured, enough to capture their attention. Martin straightened, wide-eyed. "What do you mean?" "I heard things," she said, her voice steady even as her insides quaked. "People said Westbridge made promises to the city, with kickbacks that would fatten their pockets at the expense of the community. We need to dig deeper into how they operate. Let us start reaching out to the community," Vanessa suggested, her eyes gleaming with inspiration. "If local businesses can show how they'll be impacted, we can gain their trust, and testimonies." As they strategized, Jenny couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away. The threat of the unknown loomed like a dark cloud on the horizon, but the fire within her burned brighter. When they wrapped up, she felt fortified yet anxious. "Remember," she said to her group, "the truth is powerful. If we expose their greed, maybe we can protect everything we love about this town." But as they settled back into their tasks, another buzz from her phone broke through the newfound energy. This message, however, didn't chill her. It was clear, directed, and filled with anger. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Step back while you still can. This wasn't just a fight for the diner anymore, it was a fight for her life. Did she have what it takes to face the storm ahead? Would support from her friends and the community be enough against such powerful foes? A storm was brewing, and Jenny felt the electric charge in the air. The next step would be crucial, but whom did she trust to stand beside her when the moment came? The late afternoon cast a warm golden glow over the diner as Jenny and her friends prepared for the community meeting. Today felt different, like the calm before a storm. Max was with her, sitting in his usual spot at the corner booth, blissfully unaware of the enormous weight resting on his mother's shoulders. Her heart fluttered as she glanced at him, a picture of innocence with a half-finished coloring book sprawled out before him. Soon enough, the diner filled with familiar faces, regulars, newcomers, young families, and older couples who had turned this place into their second home. Laughter and chatter mingled with the sound of sizzling bacon and clinking plates, but deep down, Jenny sensed an undercurrent of anxiety that mirrored her own. With a steadying breath, she stood and clinked her spoon against a glass, drawing the crowd's attention. Thank you all for coming. I know many of you are aware of the potential threat to our diner and our community. But today, we're not just fighting for this building, we're fighting for what it represents: home, connection, and family. Nods of agreement echoed across the diner, their faces reflecting hope and determination. Martin stepped forward, brandishing the documents he had gathered. I spoke to a few local business owners who shared their concerns. If this mall is built, many of them will have to close their doors. They can't compete with huge corporations. Bob chimed in, his voice booming with passion. We're also going to gather stories. Everyone here has a connection to this diner, memories that should not be erased. We need to turn those stories into a powerful message. One by one, patrons stepped up to share their memories: family gatherings, first dates, milestones woven into the fabric of this little diner. Tears pricked Jenny's eyes as she listened to tales of love, laughter, and community bonds forming over cups of coffee and shared meals. As the room filled with voices united in purpose, Jenny felt an exhilarating surge of courage sweep through her. Maybe they could change the narrative. But in the back of her mind, the threats still loomed like dark clouds. Would they turn violent? Would the investors retaliate? Just then, the door swung open with a sudden rush of cold air. In walked Jerry, the town council member. The entire diner fell silent, an awkward tension cocooning the space as he leaned against the doorframe. Nice gathering you have here, Jenny, he said, an air of mockery lacing his tone. Thinking you can stop progress? You might want to rethink that. The hardened expressions around the diner hardened in response. Jenny's heart raced. We're not giving up without a fight, she stated defiantly, meeting his gaze head-on. Jerry smirked, his eyes narrowing. Good luck with that. Then, he pivoted and left. The moment he stepped out, a rush of nervous energy filled the diner. We've got to be ready for anything, Jenny said, addressing the crowd again, this time channeling her anxious energy into resolve. Tonight, let us take this rally spirit and make our voices louder. We're more than just a diner, this is our community. We'll show them they can't erase us. As they brainstormed ideas for posters and flyers, Jenny caught sight of Max's serious face across the room. He had been quietly listening, absorbing every moment. She smiled, catching his eye. He smiled back, his innocence radiating a warmth Jenny needed more than ever. The meeting wrapped up with excited chatter, promises to return with even more allies, and a spirit of determination pulsing around the diner like a heartbeat. As the last customers trickled out, Jenny started cleaning up, wiping down tables with lighter shoulders. Everything all right? Bob asked, handing her a stack of finished flyers. More than all right, she replied, feeling the fire within her grow. I think we really can do this. That evening, as she tucked Max into bed, he looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes. "Mom, we're going to save the diner, right?" "Of course we are," Jenny said softly, brushing his hair back. "Together, we can do anything." As she turned off the light and closed the door, her phone buzzed again. It was another message, reading, "You're making a mistake." But now, rather than feeling fear, she felt a wave of determination wash over her. The next day was crucial. She would rally her town, spread the message of love and connection, and stand proudly for what was right. What began as a fight for a diner had evolved into a rallying cry for the community, and Jenny was ready to lead the charge. The sun broke through the horizon as she stepped outside, ready to face whatever came next. Armed with hope, courage, and unwavering support, she turned to the day ahead, believing in the power of their fight and the love that fueled it. And as she looked back at the diner, her heart swelled. This was more than a diner. This was home. It was time to take a stand. The battle was just beginning, and Jenny was ready to face it head-on. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Every action counts. Show that your heart is in this fight.